Again, I want to welcome you to today's presentation, Digitizing Health Records and More with Adobe Sign. It's now my pleasure to introduce your presenter for today, Sarah Linderman, Product Marketing Manager with Adobe Document Cloud. Sarah, you have the floor.
Thanks so much, Phil, and good morning to everyone, or good afternoon, and thank you very much for joining us. We are delighted to have you join us for this session where we're going to talk about specifically digitizing health records, but also just showing the power of Adobe Sign and how you can use it on forms or workflows like those that are related to vaccines and health updates, or really anything else. Just a quick note here, if you take a look at this slide, you see that this session is actually just one of many that we run. We've been running these sessions for a little bit over a year now and are really enjoying having the opportunity to share with you. If you look over on the left, you see that we have a bunch of sessions that are available on demand. We have one about getting started with Adobe Sign that really talks about implementation. We have a variety of sessions that are devoted to getting integrations up and running. So feel free to go check those out. We'll be sure that you have the links available to those. And yes, I just see a question pop into the chat about October 21st. Yes, recordings, they're all available on demand, and we'll make sure that in the recap email, I think you have access to all of the links. We also have a session coming up on December 8th that's about demystifying the legality of e-signatures. This is a topic that we get questions about quite frequently, and this is going to be the first session on that topic, so excited to dive in there. All that said, let's talk about today, the most important topic. So today, as I mentioned, it's about digitizing health records. I'm going to start just by giving a quick overview of Adobe Sign, talking about the capabilities, the competencies. We'll do a quick spotlight on medical records, and then I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Serge, who's going to walk through a demo to show you what this actually looks like. We'll do some wrap up. I'll share some resources and next steps with you, and we will make sure to save plenty of time for Q&A. So feel free to drop your questions into the chat as we go along. And then again, like I said, we'll be doing kind of a moderated Q&A session at the end as well. Before I dive into the content, I just wanted to kick off with a poll. It's always nice to have an idea of who's in the room with us today. So just two quick questions. One, what is your role? And two, why did you sign up for? What are you hoping to get out of today's session? All right, so a lot of IT admin, which is very common. See some procurement, some HR. Great, we have a nice variety of roles. I think everything will be super applicable. And then again, feel free to just kind of drop in what you want to get out of today. Let's see, overall capabilities. Yep, Adobe Sign and sensitive workflow, absolutely. Practical day-to-day uses, perfect. I think that you're going to be able to get a lot of the content that you're looking for addressed through today. So great. All right, let's get started. Going paperless with Adobe Sign. What does that mean? So before I talk about that, I always like to just point out a bit of a reality check, which is that today, if you look at education, nearly 80% of the workflows on a typical campus, and when I say workflows, this could be anything from student-facing, staff-facing, vendor-facing, all the forms that are spanning across all of those buckets, they're still paper-based. And as you know, it's a pretty old school approach. You have to print things out, you have to sign them, you have to scan them, you have to email them. It feels pretty archaic, and obviously it's pretty efficient. It just involves a lot of steps. It's really complicated, it's slow, it leaves room for error. And for anyone who's actually involved in these workflows, particularly on the IT or admin end of things, it results in a lot of time that's spent doing admin work, which is not everybody's favorite task to be doing, as I'm sure you could agree with. So the good news is when you go paperless, when you digitize these workflows, you can save a lot of time and money, and obviously you can cut out a lot of the efficiencies and pain points that I mentioned on the previous slide, right? So first of all, for each transaction, that's a transaction, by the way, is defined as one document that's going out for signatures. It could be going out for one signature. It could be going out for 5 signatures in a workflow. That still just counts as one transaction. A school is able to save an average of around 1.5 labor hours by going digital. When you think about all the time that's reduced, that is taken away from time spent correcting errors, schools can also reduce the overall processing time by around 96%. And then when you add up all of the hard costs, all of the soft costs, you can actually realize average savings of around $6 per transaction. Oftentimes when we put this stat out there, people are like, what? That seems awfully high. And I understand that. But just to step back from it, consider everything that goes into that. You have the cost of maintaining printers and copiers. You have the cost of ink. You have the cost of paper. You have the cost of a lot of different items that are going into that bucket. So when you kind of pull out all of the technicalities related to that, it does add up relatively quickly. And a good way of thinking about that, if you take 20,000 forms and you make those all digital, that can equate to savings of around $120,000 for your school and over 30,000 labor hours that are saved. And that is a pretty incredible number. All right, let's talk about the environmental impact, since this is obviously a very timely topic. For every, again, just using that kind of 20,000 forms number that I threw out, that you transition over to digital, you're going to save around 1,530 gallons of water. You're saving a bunch of wood. You're saving energy. You're saving waste. You're able to help your school kind of have a green movement here, reduce carbon emissions, and really make a more positive impact on the environment. All right, so let's get into the details of what Adobe Sign is and how it works. So first of all, at its simplest level, Adobe Sign is a cloud-based electronic signature service, and what its intent is it helps you simplify, streamline, and secure the process of gathering information and signatures. Users are able to send, view, manage, and legally sign documents from anywhere at any time, including phones and tablets. And just a quick note there about signing. People often ask, if I send a document to somebody for signature, do they have to have an Adobe Sign account or sign in? And the answer is no, anybody can sign the documents. But something I want to highlight beyond everything that I've talked about here is just that Adobe Sign is really more about a lot more than just signing. It really helps you digitize the whole document processing workflow. So this involves creating documents, collaborating and working on those documents, and then tracking and archiving documents, which is huge because being able to access the information contained in these documents is obviously a really important thing. It also helps to keep everything secure and protected. So it's great from a compliance and security standpoint. And again, just pointing out that it makes all the data in those documents very easily discoverable. Just to visually re-emphasize the point that I was making there about how comprehensive Adobe Sign is, I just want to kind of walk through this a bit and talk about all the things that you can do with Adobe Sign. So first, you can quickly turn paper or Microsoft Office documents or PDFs into fillable, signable forms, especially as they partner up with the power of Adobe Acrobat. You can then send them out for e-signature with just a single click, and recipients can sign them from anywhere using a web browser. And again, they do not have to have any account or sign in. All the documents are protected with really strict security measures. And again, they're easily accessible, trackable, they're managed. You can do that anywhere in real time. So it's great for, again, for all the people that are involved in the admin process associated with these workflows. And Adobe Sign is built to integrate with a lot of other systems that you may be using on your campus, in particular Microsoft, so you don't have to worry as much about implementation challenges because we do a lot to make that process very seamless. So why does education prefer Adobe Sign? Well, I could probably go on about this for a while, but there's really 5 aspects that I like to highlight relative to the Adobe Sign experience. The first is trust and credibility. So we've been doing this for a long time, especially if you think about our history with Creative Cloud. We've been partnering with education, schools, universities for well over 20 years. So we're really familiar kind of with what it means to work in the education environment, what it takes, and what you're looking for from a partnership perspective. So that's just something that we think gives the people that we work with a lot of peace of mind. The second is the ease of use. It's easy to use for the sender, it's easy to use for the signer, and when we go through the demo later, hopefully that'll help to bring that to life a little bit. I think this is really important, especially in education, where you're working with an audience that's pretty diverse. So you have older people, younger people, there's just a lot of levels of familiarity and ease of working with technology, and it's important to make something easy to use when you bring it onto your campus so that you don't have a lot of pushback. And that's something that we take pride in for the Adobe Sign product. Third point, designed to integrate, as I mentioned before. So we are Microsoft's only preferred e-signature partner, which means that we've been built specifically to work within the Microsoft environment. So if you're a school who works on Microsoft, if you're using Teams, if you're using SharePoint, etc., you can take the e-signature capabilities of Adobe Sign, pop it right into that environment, which makes it super simple and easy for you to work for anyone on your campus to work in that environment. And it just means no time added. They're working in environments they're already familiar with. Fourth point is intuitive workflow control. So we have a lot of, we have digital workflow technologies. So you can set up these workflows, you can quickly and easily build them, you can test them, and you can refine them. You don't have to have coding capabilities or high-tech capabilities. Anyone can tailor and automate these signature workflows to work for them without having to have technical expertise. And finally, compliance standards, which may be the most important thing here, especially when you consider all the compliance and regulatory details associated in the education space. Adobe uses the same technologies and security engineering processes that are relied on by financial institutions and governments, and of course, educational institutions all around the world. All right, I have up here, Adobe Sign has just been recognized in an IDC study, and if you're not familiar with IDC, it's a global market intelligence firm, as a worldwide leader in e-signatures. That's something we're pretty excited about. And in this study, Adobe ranked higher in capabilities against DocuSign and ranked above others such as PandaDocs, Box, and Dropbox in both strategies and capabilities. That's due to a bunch of things. Some of the particular articulated strengths that the study pulled out include Adobe Sign's experience and vision, the strength of our integrations, the range of our authentication capabilities, and the customer success that's been experienced by everyone who is using our product, which I think is the most notable point to take away from this. So where can you use Adobe Sign? It's really a solution that's built to support workflows everywhere, all across our campus. It's great for operational workflows like vendor agreements. We have a lot of clients who are using it for staff management needs like onboarding forms or in higher education, academic research submissions. Of course, it's also valuable for student and if you're, again, higher ed, alumni-facing workflows, course management, donor forms. And in all of these cases, using paper-based forms and wet signatures, again, just to reiterate, it requires tons of time, cross-coordination between departments and individuals. It's actually just a lot of pure legwork. And when you go paperless with Adobe Sign, you simplify the routing procedures, you reduce trips that people have to make to offices or to campus overall, and you can really just get things done so much faster. It's a better experience for the whole campus all the way around. Obviously, I've highlighted immunization and health records because that is a topic we're going to deep dive on today. We're going to get into that when I hand it over to Serge. Just a couple more things from me on that, right? If you see here, when you take any of these forms, whether it be an immunization record, it could be also things like allergy records, medication records, health conditions, all of those. When you digitize them, there's so many benefits. You can have better security and compliance with privacy regulations like for HIPAA, easier data collection. There's less duplication, so you're not going to have this form showing up in a million places and a million different forms and getting lost across multiple filing cabinets, which in turn really provides your staff with better control and access to the information and better reporting capabilities. And it even can help you expedite the release process if you come into an emergency situation. So lots of benefits, again, that Serge will talk about in a little more detail. The last note that I want to make is just quickly highlighting one of the customers that is currently using us, and that is Tulane University. Now, they've been using Adobe Sign in a bunch of different ways, really to help provide operational continuity across COVID or across a lot of the weather situations they experience in New Orleans. They've introduced it to workflows in their procurement department, the Office of Academic Affairs, but the one I want to highlight is that they brought it into their med school and med center because it is related to the topic we're talking about today. Again, a bit different than vaccination records, but still in the same vein. If you look in Tulane's case, they're using Adobe Sign to help with the regulatory paperwork, and there's a lot of it involved in medical research. It's another type of workflow like vaccine records. It has a lot of privacy and compliance implication. And the upside is that they've been able to enroll more patients more quickly, which helps them accelerate the quantity of medical research that they've been able to pursue, which obviously is a fantastic benefit. All right, I think that you've heard enough from me. I am going to hand it over on that note to my colleague Serge. He's going to get into the details of what it looks like to use Adobe Sign to digitize your vaccination records.
Thank you, Sarah. And thank you all for joining this webinar. My name is Sir St. Felix, and I'm going to show you how, in this demo, how a parent, a school administrator, and a school nurse can have an exceptional experience using Adobe Sign. So let's get started. So school is about to start, and parents have received an email requesting proof of vaccination so that their child can be admitted. The email included a document which parents had to print, fill out, and sign. Additionally, a copy of their child's vaccination record had to be attached. So the parent had to hand deliver the documents to the school so they can make a copy of it. Well, here was my experience. After printing and filling out the document, I had to get into my car, drive to the doctor's office to pick up my daughter's vaccination form. Then I had to drive to the school to deliver the documents which they made copies of. Now I asked, what do they do with those copies that they have? Well, the school told me that the school nurse would have to take the paper copies and enter data on an application that they use to pull up a child's profile in the event that they are sick. Now, personally, that's a lot of data entry for a nurse, and I would rather a nurse be a nurse than a data clerk, especially when my daughter's sick. For me, that wasn't the best experience, especially with the traffic that I had to deal with. And I'm also not the biggest fan of paper when all this can be done digitally. So the process that this presents a lot of challenges for schools and for parents. One, paper waste. We create additional work for parents and teachers to download, print, and copy documents. Two, document inefficiency. Now, I don't know about you, but filing papers away in a large cabinet is not very efficient, especially when it comes to searching for documents. And lastly, our sustainability efforts. Increasing paper usage when you can go digital is not eco-friendly. And let's not forget the indirect costs, such as the carbon emissions from transportation, as my colleague Sarah had mentioned. So here's what I'm going to do. This is where Adobe Sign comes into the picture to help with the schools with this specific process. So in this demo, what I'll do today is I'm going to create a reusable template. From there, I'll create a web form that parents can fill out on any device of their choice, whether it be desktop, tablet, or mobile. Then we'll store all that web form data digitally. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump right into Adobe Sign. And so what you should see right now on the screen is Adobe Sign, and this is what I'll be showing you in terms of those 3 steps. So first thing I'll need to do is create a reusable template. So on my home screen down below, I can click on Create Reusable Template. And I'm going to make a few adjustments here. I want to make sure that everyone within my organization has access to this document. And then I'm going to go ahead and look for that document for the actual form. So here it is, my proof of vaccination form. I'll click Open, and then I'm ready to go as soon as I click on Preview and Add Fields. Now, I actually prepare this ahead of time. So I'm going to go over to my Manage tab. Then I'm going to go over to my templates. Then I'm going to select the template right here. Click on Edit Template. So this is what it looks like when you're actually authoring a document in Adobe Sign. So I want to draw your attention to the right-hand side of the screen. And this is all the fields that are available to you. So I have some signature fields. If I want to use any signatures, digital signatures, I have signer info fields for things like date. I have these data fields for custom fields. So let's say I need to add some text, some drop-down menus, checkbox, radio buttons, and then I have a few more fields, and in this case, a file attachment. And so as you see in this document, I've already authored a few text fields, right here. Here's my file attachment. And the reason why I have the file attachment is for some schools, if it's required to actually show or attach the actual vaccination, we can provide that for you within this agreement. Down below, if you don't have to show the actual record, but you just have to provide the dates in which your child was vaccinated for, let's say, be polio, hepatitis, or in this case, COVID, or the COVID vaccine. You can add basically dates here on this form. Then I have some additional information for whether if your child meets all the requirements, if they don't, and what the reasonings might be. And then here's my signature field. So here's my signature, here's my date field, which basically indicates, once the agreement is signed, it's going to date when that agreement is signed. So I looked in the chat and I think there was a question in terms of, when a form gets signed, we need to have the date and time. We certainly can accommodate for this. So now that I have my document ready, just have to click save and I'm ready to go. So now the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a web form. And so now I'll go over to my home screen and click on Publish a Web Form. So really simple, just 3 simple steps. 1, give your web form a name. And this is where I would specify that right here in this field. Second, these are the participants, or in this case, the parents who are going to be filling out the forms. They can have different roles. One role, the most common role, is the role of a signer, but we have approvers, acceptors. But for this specific use case, I want them to just fill out a form. If we want some countersigners, we can have that, but it's not needed for this particular use case. Our main method of authentication is going to be email. And so when you see the web form in action, it's going to prompt you to enter in your email to indicate that you intended to fill out this form, and then it'll have you confirm that email. Lastly, I just have to add the file, which in this case, I've created a template in my previous step. And so here's my proof of vaccination template. I'll just attach that. And then down below, if I want to make sure that my fields are set up the way they should be, I'll just check this box right here where it says preview and add signature fields. And then I just have to click next. Now, just like I did with the template, I set this up ahead of time. So I'm going to go back to my Manage tab. I'll click on Web Forms. And here's my proof of vaccination form. I'm going to click on Edit Web Form. So here you'll see that I've actually named the form, 2021 Proof of Vaccinations. The participants will be form fillers, and I actually have the proof of vaccination form. I'm going to go ahead and click on Next. And what's going to happen is it's going to look very similar to the screen that you saw when I was creating the template. And so here it is. So here it's just confirming, yep, these are my fields. One thing that I probably didn't mention, you can double click on these fields and you could have more functionality. So in this case, I want the student's name to be required. If I don't want it to be required, then I don't have to select that checkbox. And then looks like everything looks good. So I'm going to click on Update. And now what we're going to have is a live form. And so here it is. I can copy this web form URL and I can put it in, let's say, an email, right, that I want to send out to all the parents. Or I can copy this web form embed code and I can send it to my IT group, my web developers, and have them place that somewhere on our website. And then this is what the actual form is going to look like for the end user. Now, what I want to do is I actually have this web form URL. We're going to actually go through it, and I'm going to go on my iPad to actually fill out this web form. Now, for those of you who are in this web conference, I know some of you are on an iPad and might have switched over to a desktop. I've taken this web form URL and I've actually created it into a QR code. So this is a live QR code that goes to this web form. And I'm going to grab my iPad and I'm actually going to use this web form. So here I am. Here's my iPad and I'm going to click on my camera. And here is the actual web form. And for those of you, again, if you have your phones, your mobile phones handy, your tablets handy, go ahead and scan this QR code. It will take you directly to this web form. Now, for those of you who don't have your phones ready, just watch on the screen and I'll show you exactly what the parents would experience using a web form. First, I'm going to hit continue. here's my web form. So I can come in here and I can type in my student's name. So I'll type in Jimmy Live Jr. That's my, there we go. I can put in the parent's name. So we'll just say Jim Live. And then I have an email address. And so this is exactly what the parents would experience using a web form. Really simple, can be done on any device of your choice, whether it be a desktop. In this case, what you're seeing right now is my mobile device, my tablet, and your phone. What's really nice is I want to actually draw your attention to the left-hand side of the screen where you see options. So right over here, I have a few options where I can clear the document data. It gives us information about the form itself. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, this blue icon, this takes me directly to the required fields. But before I do that, notice in the middle where, let's say I have to actually provide a vaccination record for the school. Well, here I can click on tap to attach. I can browse on my device and I can attach an actual vaccination record. Let's say it wasn't a requirement. All you need to do is just to identify the dates. So I'll go ahead and click on my first date, and we'll just say that my child received their first vaccination on November 2000, and then maybe their second vaccination 5 years later. All fake. And again, if you guys are participating right now, definitely encourage you to not put in real data, but go ahead and experience what it's like to basically use a web form. So here I have an attachment. I've actually added the first and the second dose, and then down below I can identify, that my child meets requirements. It's mobile friendly, and then here I'm ready to sign. So I'll go ahead and click here to sign, and I'll type in my name. If I don't want to type in my name and I want to draw my name, I can do that. But I prefer to type in my name. I think the font looks much better for me. I'll click apply. Notice that the date comes in. I'll click on finish, and then I'll click on submit. Now remember, I mentioned earlier that before this form gets submitted, it's going to prompt you to enter in your email just to confirm that you intended to fill out this form. So here I have my email ready. I'm going to click submit, and then I'm done. So one more step. So I'm just going to go back to my screen, and looks like I just got an email that came in. Here's my email, and here it's asking me to confirm my email address. So I'll click on confirm, and I'm good to go. So let's go back to Adobe Sign, because what I want to show you now is a couple more things. Number one, I'm going to go over to our Manage tab. And here in our Manage tab, I can look at complete agreements. And so here are all the agreements that are coming in. Looks like we got one from Daniel Brooks. Thanks for setting that up. I can pull up the agreement. I can open it up right in Adobe Sign for record's sake. Here it has my attachment, all the information I've added, and then here's my sample vaccine record. If I want to download the audit report, which is very important, let's go ahead and open that up in Acrobat. Here's my proof of vaccination. And the reason why I'm showing you this is for three reasons. Number one, identity. Number two, intent. And number three, integrity. When it comes to identity, what this is demonstrating is who created the web form within Adobe, and then who actually completed the form. So it's identifying the individuals that was part of this signing ceremony. Secondly, intent. As I mentioned, we don't coerce anyone to fill documents. We want to make sure that they intended to do so, and that's where you saw the actual form prompting the email address. But lastly, and most importantly, integrity. Integrity of the document. This document is secured. It cannot be tampered with, and this will provide a sense of security for those to ensure that, hey, what's in this document is secured. Now I wanted to show one quick added bonus. So I'm going to go back over to Adobe Sign, but actually I'm going to jump over to SharePoint. So this is a SharePoint list, and this is where I'm actually taking all of that form data and I'm sending it over into a list. So remember how earlier I said the school nurse has to manually enter in all of that paper document into an application? Well, here we're saving her that time from doing all that data entry. And so I know that there was a couple on, in the audience that's a nurse. This is something that hopefully could be a benefit to you if that was part of your process where you can come in and easily just capture all the data that's founded in this SharePoint repository. And that's by leveraging our integration with Microsoft. As Sarah mentioned, we are Microsoft's preferred e-signature solution, and our integrations work seamlessly. So if you want to take data like a web form and pass that over into a SharePoint list and then send that over to other departments, really simple to set up. And so this is what I wanted to show you here in terms of the integration. Looks like we have Daniel, Michael Jackson has signed in. Great. So let's go back to the demo. What did we actually learn? So the pain points that we alleviated was we reduced paper waste. Schools now can eliminate paper waste, which will result in decreased costs. Secondly, the process of gathering documents and signatures is more efficient. Menial tasks such as printing and copying are done away with, and core job functions, again, for that school nurse, are prioritized. Finally, schools can play an important role with the environment by reducing those carbon emissions from unnecessary travel and other waste that affects our environment. So I hope you found this demonstration useful and a good use of your time. I'll turn it back over to my colleague, Sarah.
All right, thanks so much, Serge. I know that there are a bunch of questions related to what Serge is going over, and don't worry, we'll be sure to queue those up and get those addressed in the Q&A. We just have a little bit more that we're going to cover today. First of all, I'm going to drop in another quick polling question, and that is asking, what else would you like to see in future webinars? We have our December topic already locked and loaded. That's going to be December 8th about the legality of e-signatures, and then we're going to kick right back off in January with a bunch of new content. So feel free to drop in any topics you'd like to see us cover. All right, feel free to keep going on that. I'm just going to move us to this final note, which is about next steps. So first of all, we encourage you to check out, share resources about Sign. We have an awesome resource hub online that you can go to and access a bunch of ebooks, things like our Adobe and Microsoft ebook, our Adobe Sign security overview. It answers a lot of security and compliance questions that often comes up. And we have a cool thing called the savings estimator. It's a little interactive PDF that you can use to try to figure out how much you would be able to save at your school, district, or campus. Secondly, again, encourage you to attend the other webinars that we have and stay tuned for next year's events. Again, December 8th, that's our next one. We also in January are going to have a session about powering digital transformation, and we have topics about getting started with Adobe Sign. And you can register and sign up for all of these on our website. And then finally, if there's other information that you would like, if there's custom demos you want, if you just need a little bit more help and deep diving, we are more than happy to set up calls to walk through this with you. So just feel free to drop in your email address. That is all from me. I'm going to go ahead and move us over to Q&A. And my colleague Lori is going to help to queue up some of the questions that you've been dropping into the chat. We'll make sure that we get through to everything. So if we're not able to address it in the Q&A session, we will get back to you one-on-one. So thanks so much. Lori, go ahead and take it away.
Okay, thank you, Sarah, and thank you everyone for a very active chat pod. We're going to try to get to as many questions as we can with the limited time we have left. Let's start with the first question for Serge. Can the end user make changes to the form? How do you lock the form down?
So the end user cannot make changes to the form. Once the form is built, it is already locked down.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And there was a question around the time and date stamp. Is there a way to have that within the document, or is it only available on the audit trail, which you showed in the demonstration?
No, you definitely can have that in the document. You can use a digital signature. You can also create additional text fields that will add the time in addition to the date, so the date is comes out of the box. If you want to add the time next to it, you can add an additional text field that will identify the time, or you can use a digital signature.
Okay. So once the document is signed, is there a way to turn it into a readable Excel sheet with the response?
Yes. So using the integration with Microsoft, all of the form data will be sent over to SharePoint, and you can turn it into an Excel spreadsheet. If you're not using the integration, any web form that we create, we provide a CSV file with all the responses.
Okay. And does the recipient have to have an Adobe ID or be credentialed in some way with
No,
Adobe?
no, anyone can use a web form, just like we did today. But if you need to access the data, like all the form data, then you must be a user and have access to that form.
Okay. And then with reminders to the recipients, can those be sent to multiple recipients at one time, or is it one one at a time?
You can
Hopefully
do
that makes
so.
sense.
So in general, with reminders, you can send reminders to everyone who has not signed, or to one individual. Or so you can pick the individual who hasn't signed, or you can pick all the individuals that have not signed. However, this use case that we were showing is a web form, and so there wouldn't be any area for it to send a reminder, because it's a one to many. The recipient is going to the form. But if an agreement was sent to a recipient, at that point you can send reminders either to the individual or to all individuals who have not signed.
Okay. In relation to creating a form or a template, is that done within Acrobat or is that done within Sign or both?
You can do both. So my recommendation is, anytime you're preparing a document, I personally like using Acrobat or Word. The moment I get into Sign, this is where I can add signature fields, text fields. In Acrobat, you certainly can add those signature and text fields, so it makes the integration really seamless, really easy to use. If you're using Word, you'd author your document, then bring it into Sign, and then use the features within Sign to add those fields that are necessary for the document.
Okay, so you mentioned Acrobat and the forms and creation, but I have the signature tool within Acrobat. What's the difference between Acrobat and what you're talking about here today with the enterprise, or maybe some of the top features?
Exactly. So if you are using the signature tool within Acrobat, and you do not have Sign, it's more of a security uh, a feature. For example, if I need to just quickly fill a permission slip for my daughter to go see Space Jam, which she actually saw just the other day, she loved it. There's a level of, like, I don't know if this has to be actually secure. I'm fine with my daughter seeing this. When we're talking about sensitive information and security, this is where Adobe Sign comes in. So Adobe provides you an opportunity to fill and sign documents, but then there are layers of security, like the audit trail, that comes with the enterprise version, that you don't get with just fill and sign.
Okay, great. So, question around, like, I suppose it's like, how is it licensed? Like, what is a transaction search?
Anytime you click send, it would be considered a transaction.
Okay. Boy, the questions are coming in. These are great questions. Keep them coming.
There was
Can
one from
our,
Darren really quick that I wanted to just jump really fast to, if I could, Corey.
okay, yeah, sure.
He was asking about the attachment. The attachment. So in my case, where I attach my vaccine record for my daughter, that will be in. So number one, after you sign an agreement, everyone gets a copy of the agreement, any attachments tied to that agreement, and the audit trail. So in short, any attachment that's part of an agreement gets tied to the overall agreement itself, which you have access to either via the console or from the attachments that, or when you receive a copy of your own agreement.
Okay. Can our documents have images added into them?
Images embedded? Yes, yeah, like so,
Um,
or attached.
yep.
Yeah, so you can, so yes, but so if you have a document and you have images within that document, yes, you can totally have that. If you need to attach an image to a document, you can do that as well.
Okay. And then once the transaction is completed, um, can you insert anything else into a completed transaction?
That's a great question. I'm glad that's been asked. So the main crux for Adobe Sign is, I would say again those three things: identity, intent, and integrity. So this comes for an integrity standpoint. Once an agreement is signed, we don't want anyone to make any changes to that document, just to make sure to maintain integrity, because this document can stand up in a court of law. And one thing we don't want is to have a document that actually has been tampered with. And so Adobe will certify and seal that document so you cannot make any edits to it.
Okay, thanks, Serge. Let's see. Another question around notarizing. Is there a notary capability in Adobe Sign?
Yes, we do have notary capabilities, and if anyone would like to see a demo of that, reach out to me. I'll put my email in the chat pod, and we can show you what that looks like. But we certainly do have notary capability, and so anyone that's interested, just shoot me an email, and I'll be glad to show that to you.
Okay. I think, Sarah, we have a couple more minutes. So I can ask some more questions because they're just coming through fast and furious. But um, can the forms be automatically populated with dynamic information,
Yes,
like
yes, they
using an
can.
API? Mhm.
Yes, absolutely. And we do that with a lot of our integrations. So, we have integrations obviously with Microsoft, with Microsoft Dynamics, with Salesforce, Workday. Absolutely. You can populate form data with different systems, or you can populate form data kind of on the fly using URL parameters. And so, um, we'll have we're putting together a few videos, our team, where in one of those videos we'll show you how you can automatically pull in data into a form so that you don't have to go in and populate that information. So stay tuned for that.
Okay. There was an interest in web forms and a question around, is there a charge for the use of the web forms, or does it consume a transaction once it's, I guess, clicked through or sent for signature?
Yes. So, and this is where I would speak with your rep. The charges with agreements and web forms. There are charges. They're slightly different. I would talk with your rep in terms of what those differences are and what the cost is. But in general, yeah, as a web form is used, certainly there's a charge, and there are ways where you can kind of mitigate maluse of those web forms where you may want to password protect the document to ensure that only certain individuals are using it appropriately. But yeah, to answer your question, there is a charge for usage of web forms.
Okay, and is there a limit to the number of signatures that can appear on one document? Like if I
Uh,
send one document for signature.
so I personally have done a document with 10 signatures. I haven't hit my limit yet. I challenge anyone to give me a limit. We right now there really isn't a limit. That just makes your document really really long. But personally speaking, I've added 10 signatures to a document.
Okay. Um, so I know there's Teams integration. Is there a timeline on when live signature will be available within Teams? Do you happen to know that?
I don't know that, but if if a demo is needed in terms of how that looks like, we certainly can accommodate. And so I don't have. I'll need to go back to our team to find out the actual date of when live sign is available.
Okay. And I'm trying to understand this question. What if one person in the workflow denies or declines the signature? What happens to that document?
So the document is then closed and it's no longer being authored. A notification gets sent to the creator of that document, and from that point on, the administrator would have to either reach out to the individual, because there is a place where you can identify why you don't want to sign the document, and so hopefully a reason is put by the recipient why he or she did not want to sign, and then from there the author of the agreement can then reach out to the individual to do any maybe revisions to the document or redlining.
Okay, I think we've answered most of the questions here in the Q&A or privately. But we'll stay on. I guess I'll turn it over to Sarah for closure, but I think we possibly could stay on, or I know Serge was going to his contact information in the chat pod, but we also can follow up with you after this webinar. So let me go ahead and turn it back over to Sarah. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much, Lori, and thank you for all the questions. I know there's also some questions around the integration with Google and Google Workspace specifically. And right now, Adobe Acrobat does have a really robust integration with Google. And I think in terms of like pulling it out for Sign, that's something that's being investigated, but I don't think that there's yet a full integration there. Serge, I don't know if you have any additional detail to add there, but that's my understanding right now of that integration.
Nope, you've covered it.
Okay, great. I think, again, as Lori mentioned, going to the PAT, let's see, there's also a question about, can this work with AIA construction contracts? I apologize, I'm not familiar with what AIA is, but I know that we do a lot of procurement workflows and we have integrations with things like Jaeger procurement systems. So I think it would probably be something that would work just like any other contract that you would push through the system.
Yeah, as long as the system allows us to, as long as the system allows our API calls to work in their platform, we can work with pretty much any platform. So it's just a matter of, can we send our API information into that platform? Some platforms are closed, others are open. I wouldn't be surprised if we wouldn't be able to do that, but that would just warrant a discussion with the specific platform and what they're allowing external solutions like Adobe Sign to do.
Yeah. And I think probably related to that, Serge, is a question about can you give an example of how Adobe Sign integrates data with the student information system? So we've done a lot of investigation into this and talked to people who use systems like PowerSchool, et cetera. And from what we found, so many of those student information systems already have signature capabilities that are kind of built in. So it seems like integrations to some extent might be rather duplicative, which is why it's not something that we pursued more fully, because when it gets down to the brass tacks of it, of what that integration would look like, we're hitting some dead ends on whether it's actually a capability that's truly needed. Serge, I don't know if you've heard more about that, but I would just say if it's something that you'd like to discuss with us more, we'd love to have a conversation around what your needs might be. And if so, you can just drop your email into the chat pod and we can contact you.
Yeah, Sarah, you covered it, so thank you.
Cool. All right, I think that we've gotten to most everything. Again, if there was a question that did not get answered, just drop your information in and we can reach out to you directly. Otherwise, there will be a follow-up note sent along that Jean has mentioned in the chat pod. I think she posted our link to access our Acrobat for Education Hub, and you can see that there's a section there for webinars on demand and our future schedule. So check that out if you want to sign up. Drop your info if you want some follow up. And otherwise, thank you for attending today, and we hope that you have a great rest of your day.